two roads diverged in a wood. I took the one less traveled by, and that, my friend, has made all the difference. All the difference. Robert Frost's immortal lines are an apt testament to Rakesh's own life. Rakesh was ever ready to make his own path, ever ready to march to his own convictions. Hello everyone, I'm Ramesh Damani, welcoming you back to part 2 of our tribute, Remembering Rakesh, on Wizards of the Street. In this episode, continuing with us are Bhaskar Bhat, Director Tata Sons, Utpal Sheth, CEO of Rare Enterprises, Amit Goela, partner at Rare, and joining us for his take, Berjis Desai, former managing partner, J. Sagar Associates. Gentlemen, welcome again to another episode. Berjis, you just joined us. Let me start with you. Do you remember your first meeting with Rakesh?
Yes, I do.
Talk to us about it.
Sometime in the mid-90s, there was a company called Praj, of which we all heard of, in which one of the substantial shareholders wanted to divest his equity. And that was the occasion on which I met him first time. And he said that it is overvalued, the price which the shareholder was asking for. And I said, okay, look, this is a company which is on a rock-solid foundation, and I can vouch for its integrity and the commitment of the vision of the promoters. So he says, Babaji, you don't give me lessons on how to value stocks. And then within 15-20 minutes, he said, I'm going to go by what you say, much against my discretion, and I'm going to buy it. So he, today, if you take into account all the corporate actions which took place over the years, I think it was worth about, at 9 rupees he bought the stock.
Right. Another of his legendary investment. Yes. But just from what I understand, you didn't bond over that, you bonded over horse racing. You both bet on stocks called Sensex and Nifty, is that right?
That horse racing came much later, several years later. And it was, I very unwittingly had to get into horse breeding because of some distress sale made by a friend, although I knew very little about horses. And after about 5 or 6 years, Rakesh was introduced by some other friends to horse racing. And then he said that, why don't we own some good horses together? So we bought a horse which was named Sensex.
Sensex and Nifty, I hear.
So Nifty won several races, and Sensex didn't run at all. And there was another horse which was very cheap, and which went on to win against all odds the Hyderabad Derby. It was very appropriately called Mahateji.
Mahateji, right. That's the long shot that Rakesh always bets on. Berjis, you talked about Praj Industries, and I know you're part of several other deals with him. Rakesh had this unique ability to sniff out promoters.
Yes.
What was his smell test?
So I said, apart from all the usual due diligence and various other things, I think he had a very natural instinct. You know, I would like to compare it to, rather sort of flippantly, to trained pigs being made to pick up truffles from the ground. So he had really a nose for the promoter. He did make a few mistakes, particularly when he would go by the reasons other than sort of rational decision-making out of relationships, etc. But he was quick to admit them. But he had a very uncanny sense of knowing who's going to do what. And he had a very keen and a detailed eye. I have seen so many promoters very uncomfortably squirm when he reminded them what they had said at the time of investing.
Amit, one of the things that your boss always used to say was, invest first, investigate later. Was that true?
No, I don't think so, Ramesh, that was true. There are several examples which I can tell you. So, while this was his favorite line, I think the thinking behind that was way beyond and deep. See, as I told you, he was working 24/7. Okay, he was always looking at opportunities. He was evaluating sectors. He might be there or he might not be there in that sector. But it did not mean that he was not thinking about it. So what that meant was when an opportunity came, he was always well prepared that he could take the decision very quickly. For example, if you take Akasa, in Akasa, he was always bullish on airlines. He had invested in Indigo, he had invested in SpiceJet, but somehow nothing worked out. And then when this opportunity came, the sheer brain power, horsepower which he brought to the table, he could evaluate it very quickly and he closed it in 48 hours. So it was not...
The entire deal in 48 hours.
Yeah, so you might say it is invest first and investigate later, but that's not the case, sir.
He had done his homework prior and kept doing his homework out there.
Yeah.
Good enough. Amit, Bhaskar made a good point about Akasa Airlines. You had Tata SIA Airlines. Was there rivalry or did you tell him anything about airline business?
I think the Akasa story, in a way, reflects Rakesh's belief in India, okay? There's no doubt, that Indians are going to want a better way of traveling. And there is no other country, by 2030, India will be the third biggest aviation market in the world. And it's just going to go. 500 million people, 540 million is the number of people who are going to fly from the current high pre-COVID, the 140 million. It's going to.
So almost 1 in 3 Indians.
Yeah, it's just the number of people who are going to fly. So there's no question. Now, how to skin that cat is left to the management and to the investor.
Utpal, he was wide known for his circle of friends. He was the life of the party. But yet, some friends were closer than the rest. Who were part of his kitchen cabinet?
I think, of course, Radhakishan ji,
R.K.
yourself,
Damani, of course, yes.
I think Kalpraj, Amal, Madhu.
They were very close to him in the last few years.
Very close, yes.
Correct. Amit, let me come back to you. I find it fascinating that a boss, a man of such fortitude, ability to look around corners, to grasp the unknown, was so casual about his health. Why?
Ramesh, one word I can say for that, hubris.
Really?
It was just hubris. See what had happened, Ramesh, he had got everything which he wanted right from the time he started his life in the stock market. He came to the markets against all odds, he became successful. He started off talking about becoming a billionaire when the word even millionaire was not used. And he became a billionaire. He wanted a large and happy family, though late he got that also. He wanted respect, he wanted to be at a particular level, he got that. So I think he always believed that he'll be able to dodge this bullet, but...
So he just felt that the sheer adrenaline would pass him through.
Yeah, that he would be able to see this through also.
But as you remarkably pointed out, Amit, that despite his obvious trouble for the last 2-3 years, he never complained.
I will tell you one episode, I'll never forget that in my life. He was finally eating salt-free food, and one day he called me to the hospital and he said, have food with me. I was not even able to swallow that stuff. And he said, Khana, maja to aa raha hai, kya problem hai? I said, Bhaiya, are you serious? He said, Dekh, jo karna padta hai, don't complain. Can you imagine that man?
Yeah, we have the feet on this world, but unfortunately, he was not able to walk for the last few months of his life. Everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear. As we go into a break, let's look at some of the tweets about Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. and welcome back to Wizards. Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far they can go. Continuing our discussion of Rakesh's improbable journey through Dalal Street. Berjis, let me get back to you. Rakesh appointed you trustee, executive as well. Did he anticipate, did he had a foreboding about his passing away?
No, he was a very meticulous planner. His prime concern was always his family and his partners like Utpal and Amit. And contrary to what people believed that he was very erratic, etc., when it came to his estate planning for the family and future, it was done in a very systematic way. The children's trusts were formed almost 7 or 8 years ago.
Really?
And they hold very substantial investments.
But these are forever investments?
No, these are private family trusts.
No, but the investments in those trust holding,
Yes.
are they to be held to,
Yes.
to maturity for the
Yes,
children?
these are long-term investments. And that is the philosophy which the investment committee which he has constituted, which also comprises Utpal and Amit. That is the philosophy which is being recommended, that these are long-term investments not to be disturbed easily unless some event requires divestment.
Amit, I know one time he was practically giddy at the prospect of meeting the Prime Minister when Modi ji called him. What was that like for him?
Oh, that was the high point of his life, Ramesh. That was a trip he was really happy to make. Utpal was there, and I was also there for some bit. We didn't see the Prime Minister, but we were with him all the time. And he was genuinely happy. I think about the last 5-7 years when Utpal, am I right? He was happy. That trip was a trip which he felt good about. He felt he was being respected. He felt his views were being taken into consideration. And he was happy on that trip. So that was the high point of his life.
It was the first time that I remember in 30 years that someone from Dalal Street was honored in New Delhi.
Yeah, that was, if I may use the word, that was the crowning of Rakesh ji.
I couldn't disagree with you. That was the crowning of Rakesh. But Utpal, talking about the Prime Minister's visit, I know Rakesh made a presentation to the PM, and I'm sure you helped him with it. What did he tell the PM? What did he want to tell the Prime Minister?
Rakesh ji used to make these presentations, and the theme was always consistent. You know, it's not right for me to say what was in the presentation to the PM, but in general, all his presentations had his strong belief in India, had his strong conviction about how India will prosper and Indians will prosper, and what a virtuous cycle that is going to be.
His maxim that he has held for the last 30 years is be bullish on India. And that framed so many parts of his life, right? How he invested, how he viewed life, the optimism in him. Correct?
True. If I may use one phrase of his, he would say the greatest risk of investing in India is not investing in India.
Not investing in India, correct, absolutely. Amit, I'm sorry, Utpal, briefly, if someone were to ask you his investment philosophy, share that. What are the main tenets of that according to you? Okay. And take me through a transaction that happened in the last few years of his life that you were particularly in awe of or you really enjoyed.
Okay. Rakesh ji was a unique combination of a deep value investor who was also a growth investor and a terminal value focused investor. I have not seen any other investor who combined all three.
Marries those two. That was Jakes was saying in the earlier episode, yes.
Yes. He had a very simple investment philosophy. He would look for the size of the opportunity, the competitive edge that the company had, the quality of the management team, the scalability and operating leverage, and lastly, the divergence between price and value. But he could filter all of these variables in his mind.
And make it look easy, actually.
So quickly. He was so quick at decision making. It was amazing.
Bhaskar, you also knew the investment professional Rakesh, you also knew his family over time. If I would ask you, when his children were young, when children are young, and when they grow up, they ask you, what kind of person was my dad? What would you tell them?
Only one phrase I would use. Everybody knows him as an investor in companies. I felt he was an investor in human beings. The human quality of the man is not well. I know it from very, very personal, interactions. Therefore, even as Utpal was saying, he could, assess people very quickly. And in Titan, frankly, the first thing he said was, when I walked into his office and I saw the people, I felt like investing in this place, And at that time, watches was the bigger business, and he had great faith in the watch business. Forget about the jewelry business.
Jewelry business, yeah.
So it was the combination of what he smelt in the place, perhaps, and what he saw in the people, and some interaction with me. So the intuitive investor is what I would say, but investment in people rather than only in the company.
Utpal, Amit, I'll ask both of you this final question. You are custodians of his legacy. You're both his partners. What is the most important learning that you both have, and what was the legacy that you think we need to promote? Amit, I'll start with you.
So we've discussed Rakeshji for the last hour or so, and we all know what he has done. His legacy is like just status quo, maintain what he has done. His kids are young, his family is young. We need to make sure that they are taken care of, things are done. We don't mess around in any way. Keep it very straight, keep it very simple, and steady as she goes. Yeah.
What I've learned from him is your patience may be tested, but your conviction will be rewarded. And I think the belief that he had in Indian entrepreneurs and management team, I think is his greatest legacy.
And it's being vindicated, as you say.
And
Berjis, I'll give you the last word. You wrote a very nice obituary for him, which I read, and you said in that you're willing to bet, even in heaven, he's not still, he's creating a rumpus. Is that true?
I think he was possessed by some kind of an extraterrestrial energy, which was, I mean, how can anybody be so much of a flush of adrenaline 24/7? And despite such bouts of ill health, particularly in the last 2 or 3 years, where so much pain, so much discomfort, bound towards a wheelchair, but his mind, the optimism, the innate optimism, and
always shown through. And
his love for India, that India is going to be having the greatest bull run in the next 10 years, which he said in the last 3 months. So I think...
you're right, Berjis. When you say that, he would have almost stars in his eyes.
Yes.
But let's move on. We've had a nice, serious discussion about the life and legacy of a friend of all of us and one of the great icons of the Indian capital markets. Let's do a rapid fire, okay? Let's see what answers you guys come out with, okay? So I'll start with Utpal. No-brainer. His favorite stock of all time.
Titan?
Yes, we knew that. So I won't even go around the table. But I'll start with you again. A maxim you remember him the most for?
Your first loss is your best loss.
Okay. Did you hear any of his maxims, Bhaskar?
Yes, I did. When something came in the papers about a raid on his, and I was still MD and I was very worried, I called him. He said, this was in Hindi, he said, look, I'm a diamond in a sack of coal. The image of this investing world.
Right.
I'm still a broker. I'll always be a broker. So
right.
I'm happy this has happened because I will come out clean. So I'm the diamond in that.
Fearless. Amit, what is your favorite maxim?
A phrase that I can't pronounce it fully, like...
Badare levanu, ghataye bechwanu.
That one.
Which means buy on strength, sell on weakness. Don't try and bargain hunt out there. Did you hear any of his maxims, Berjis?
Not really, but he always used to say, what prediction does Ganeshji have for me?
Okay, good enough. His favorite Bollywood movie or song? Name one.
Meri Zohra Jabi.
From the film Waqt with Balraj Sahni.
Me?
You used to sing with him, I know that.
He said this was the national anthem of India at that time. That Amitabh Bachchan, his son, what is it called? Bunty or Bubbly. That song from Bunty or
Kajra
Kajra.
Lovely. Amit, do you have any memories of film?
That's
song?
same.
He actually danced in your house to that song.
That
if I'm
was
not
the
mistaken.
last
Correct. Burgess,
famous video.
you shared horses? Do you share a
So, no,
celluloid
after a
love?
few drinks, he always used to sing this song, Maine pi sharab, तूने क्या किया आदमी का खून.
Burgess, his best quality.
I think his quick-fire ability to apologize after one of his famous violent outbursts,
And his worst quality.
not looking after his health.
Amit,
Compassion, best, and worst was like he didn't look after himself.
Bhaskar.
His human quality of understanding and instinct, and his worst quality, same, not looking after himself.
Hell, that's almost unanimous. I guess you also agree with the worst. What would you say his best quality is, Utpal?
I think judging people and sustaining relationships.
Can you give me a global investor, Utpal, or a promoter whom he admired?
He admired George Soros tremendously, and I think the marquee trade of $1 billion betting against the pound sterling, there were so many lessons from that he learned and talked about. One quote I would use here is, it doesn't matter how many times you are right and how many times you are wrong.
How much money you make when you're right? Absolutely. Bhaskar, what about you? Any investor or promoter that he told you he admired?
Quite unequivocally a big admirer of the Tata Group. And whether it was Mr. Ratan Tata or current chairman Chandra, he would have
Unabashed admirer.
and it was always not for the investment return, but for the values of the group, and he would repeatedly talk about it.
I don't know about investor promoter, but a politician I know he deeply admires was Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Amit, anyone comes
So
to mind?
other than George Soros, it's Mark Faber.
He's of course a very colorful character. Visited him in Bombay.
Yeah, so-
Burgess, did he tell you anyone?
I think he just couldn't see beyond Tatas.
Okay, good enough. Last question, gentlemen. First to you, Burgess. Other than the birth of his children, when did you see him happiest? 25th wedding anniversary, 50th birthday in Mauritius, or when Titan became a 100-bagger?
I think it was to the extent I remember it was in Mauritius when he celebrated his birthday.
50th?
And
100%.
Not when Titan became a 100-bagger?
Oh, Mauritius
that
is
can't be
next
true.
to that swimming pool.
He was in a different mood.
You know, the difference is he was happy when others were happy. Whereas we are happy when we are happy.
And making others happy made him
Yeah,
happy.
100%.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. That was a wonderful rapid fire. To conclude our special tribute, remembering Rakesh, allow me to share a poem by Henry Van Dyke entitled Katrina Sundial to honor his memory. Time is too slow for those who wait, too swift for those who fear, too long for those who grieve, too short for those who rejoice. But for those who love, time is eternity. Memories of him will linger with us for an eternity. Farewell, Khuda Hafiz and Alvida to my dear friend Rakesh. Goodbye and see you all next week on another episode of Wizards.